All right, we are finally live and immediately live as I just read Shem's message. Bro, you forgot to hit live, so we sat through 6 minutes of intro. You guys got 20 seconds of it. And that's why Instagram didn't want to work for me. Okay, now I can hit the go live button and it's probably going to work. Oh no, I hit, god damn it. Anyways, happy solstice, Merry Christmas. If you're watching this late, maybe Happy New Year. Got Shem Jacobs, Tartarian Truth, back with me again. How are you, brother?
Not too bad. What's going on?
Just earlier finished a 4-hour multi-science, like my brain still hurts from it, discussion with Jeremy Reese, the alien scientist, co-hosting, and we got together Dave Rossi, he's a pretty well-renowned, like up like in his 30s, maybe early 40s, but I think still late 30s. Physicist, engineer, and I believe also working on classified projects, as well as the world-renowned Dr. Bob Greenyer of the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project, aka the leading institution of just do-it-yourself scientists and engineers of cold fusion and plasma ball lightning engineering and physics. Pretty fun. And then also Ashton Forbes as well joined us. Shout out to Mr. Four Orbs. If for those unaware, he's the one that's been bringing forward and researching the MH370 mystery, and the videos that were posted in 2014 immediately after the plane went missing. Within a couple of days, these videos came up. I actually remember, like now in retrospect, watching them off of the Before It's News website at the time, and being like, yeah, right. But at the same time, there was Dom Lemon on CNN being like, oh, it's a black hole, as if like he was shook as
That
if
was
it was real.
that was back
And
when YouTube wasn't censored either, though. You could get the good videos on YouTube back then.
right? Oh, I know. Now shout out, Rumble, probably Instagram, which I still need to go live on, whatever. It only lasts for an hour, so I'll get it done once you start showing us some of what you've been up to. But good year in review. We've covered lots of different pyramids and mounds, and it's the winter solstice just finished upon us, and now is a great time for anybody that might have such things as pyramid mountains or mounds around you that you suspect. Well, the winter solstice, the sun should be on the southernmost side now, setting and rising, the shadow on the tip of the pyramid, right? No longer on the top like during the equinoxes. And essentially that's one aspect of what pyramids are, and or one function that they served was giant year-long solar calendars, right? And yeah, just we stopped using them and reading them long ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think they serve multiple purposes, and I don't know. Some of the claims about how they are lined up with the stars and stuff are kind of interesting to me because wouldn't the stars change over time? So I'm just not sure. But I'm also not that
Well,
familiar with
that's
astronomy.
exactly it, and that it astro dates them to a lot of these. I believe the Giza pyramids and the Sphinx are astroarchaeologically aligned to at least 12,000 years for one or two of the pyramids, or the Sphinx one or the other, and then some of them like 24 and 36,000 years back supposedly, and that's like precisely one of the points of it, is these true ancient and like pre-cataclysm ancient structures that mass academia like scoffs at it or tries to like brush it under the rug, because when you do actually run these, enter it into like the computer simulation or program that calculates it or whatnot, it does come back with what these really ancient times or dates. But yeah, that
Shot Calyx.
if it's something that it's worth pursuing and looking into and studying more. And the next time we're with do a stream with Hans, talk to him about it, and Samir Asvanovich as well. But I'm gonna take the initiative and do another episode fully on that and some research in between then. But that essentially, potentially, every single pyramid and mound around the world could and should be able to be astroarchaeologically dated to when it was built if they do have those direct star engineering or built correlations, as like lots of them with Orion's belt. And that's a big one that the Giza ones, I believe, are, as well as the main Mexico City ones, and some of the main Chinese pyramid complexes.
Yeah, I have a list of a few Chinese pyramids we can look at too.
Boom, there we go. Good segue in.
Oh, this is okay, so you were asking what I've been working on recently. So this is a map from 1697 of North America, basically. And on this map, there's for some reason in the area of Chicago, Illinois, there's a star fort.
Interesting. There's not supposed to be one there, hey?
So right here, you can see. It's called Fort Miami on some maps, and on some maps it's on this side of the lake, but on this one it's right here. And a lot of explorers that traveled through this area at that time also described there being civilization there. A way you can tell that they're not making this up is that we have this Fort Frontenac right here, which is a documented star fort that existed and still has some remains to today in Canada.
Right, exactly. There's more and more of these that we're finding, that everyone that they just start popping up on these ancient maps, and then you go in on Google Earth and you verify that there's either still visible remnants or it's an active like current quarry or mine, or yeah, that's pretty much all we usually find.
And then this is a 1733 map from Henry Popple. It also shows there being a star fort in the location of Chicago. This word portage here just means that they would apparently carry their boats across a specific area to get to the next part of the trade route. So why is this interesting? Because they say that there was no fort in Chicago until Fort Dearborn, which was like around the 1800s, 1812, I think, was when it was destroyed or something. We'll bring up Chicago to see what they say about the history, but yeah, so there was something going on in Chicago long before what they give credit to, and these are French explorers that are traveling through here at this time. The first guy in Chicago, for some reason he's a African American, but for some reason in some old text they call him the first white man in Chicago, but he's not white. It's really strange, the whole story about it. So yeah, here's the Fort Dearborn story. So 1803, Fort Dearborn. So that was when that fort is allegedly supposed to be there. So keep in mind the first map we saw was from 1697. And this is the guy right here, John Baptiste Point du Sable, the first resident of Chicago, permanent settler.
So very first, hey? I just don't buy that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's likely that, I mean, during this time period, it was under the control of the French. And if you think about French history, look at the architecture they had all the way back in like the 1200s, 1300s. 1400s, why would they not be able to build that stuff in America as well? If we're just
very true. Good point.
And unfortunately, this Harvard website for my next image, unfortunately, like for some reason recently, all the images have been taken down. So I had another map to show, but it's taken down. So if you want to pull up any pyramids and star forts, you can move on to that for a minute. Because yeah, look how many pages have been removed.
Wow, hey? And just not even behind a paywall, just taken down. Well, we live in a backwards world.
Yeah, this is really weird. Because this used to have a bunch of maps that showed Chicago having settlements in that area. I showed it in a video on my channel recently, so you can see some of them there. But yeah, I don't know why they're gone. It's really strange.
So, nice. You actually did a video with these maps, showing these maps, and then since then they've been taken down.
Yeah, and okay, this is interesting. This is showing the connection between Siberia and Alaska, but the Andean Strait, which is for some reason also called Detroit. But yeah, I don't know. So the maps of North America seem to be gone though.
Just criminal. Okay. Oh, lucky. We are live on Instagram, finally. Okay, now I can focus on the rest of everything. Back to the stream. Welcome, Instagram. Part of the meta. How do you feel being meta, Sham? We're sharing Solstice Christmas time special with Meta X, Facebook, Rumble, and YouTube. With a little Twitch in there. Doesn't that just sound like a holly jolly dance of a good time? Or family, I don't know, domestic? I'm just kidding.
So one of the maps showed up just now, and try to figure out what year this is from. I don't know. But in the Chicago area, we have a depiction of some sort of settlement. Let's see if we can find
with less Chicagan, the Chicago.
So this is talking about the French explorers right here. I can't read what this says, but this is that one of the names of the explorers right here, I believe. And it mentions 1680, so it must be after 1680. But yeah, there are a lot more maps like this in this book, but for some reason they've been removed, and it really sucks.
Well, when we're doing an active job, like just dissecting that official history is absolute bullshit with their own materials, they kind of, I guess, have to stop displaying it so that people will still pay tens of thousands of dollars to attend their indoctrination institutions, I guess. Like, what else can we say?
Yeah, it shouldn't be illegal for them to keep some of the stuff private. Depictions of Native Americans, the balding. Weird.
Very strange.
Yeah, did you want to bring up any mounds or pyramids or anything? I'm just kind of going through this because I'm shocked about it.
Oops, we got a folder full of some old maps that we can take a look through at the moment. That's, you know, always a good part of the Christmas special. When you have Antarctica and Australia depicted on all of these maps 200 to 300 years before it was officially discovered by the Russians in the early 1800s, right? Like it's kind of fascinating, in that it shows that they're connected. Oops. Here's another one. With just another little, what seems to be canal or small continental cross between the two, almost like the Panama or Suez Canal style, that seems to have existed pre-cataclysm at the former civilization's time and existence, that they hadn't yet gone back out to see what was there or confirm it, I guess, until the Russians got back there in the early 1800s. But it was well aware, and it was captured and used by each empire of those times, cartographers and map makers, as what was commonly known beforehand, right? And it's like they kept this knowledge for the military, the royals, and the elite sort of thing, and whatever extra worldly trade and activities they had going on at the time. And basically there was a complete and utter reset, wiping out and rewriting of history.
What year are you thinking this takes place on?
Well, it's like any map pre-Columbus time, right? So I guess 500 years ago is when they're based off of, but pre-500. So it's like, was there a minor one then, and were all of these maps being copied from the time of like 12,000 years ago, the Younger Dryas sort of thing, like pre-Noah flood, pre-Atlantis flood, but no civilization had been able to like travel to these far extents of the realm since that time to document what's there or what's not actually there. Maybe some have, and like they kept it as extreme secrets, and why there was like places labeled in actual like tips of Antarctica, known islands of like it's like warm, like island of hot ladies, and it's like, no, that it's a volcano and you're gonna die, and there's nothing there but ice. But that was the joke between, or the talk between sailors, right, or elites or understandings. But who knows? It's what, I guess, what it kind of seems. This map is out. Sorry, continue.
I was going to say, sometimes I think maybe even just the maps we have are completely wrong, and maybe the world is just shaped completely differently than anything we can imagine.
Yeah, like, right, like, who really knows? I don't. I want to eventually explore and see. I think that whatever is in the Antarctic, or what they claim there, and also the North Polar region that supposedly is within my great suburbial nation of Canada under the current empire. But we looked at Devon Island, found pyramids up there, and that's like one of the largest islands that's supposedly uninhabited and closest to these poles, what they call the poles, or the end, or what's documented, right? Beyond that's anyone's guess. Maybe it is just ice. Maybe it's a trans-dimensional portal to an inner Earth. Who knows? Okay, yeah. So this map right here, there's a bunch of them, and basically we see I guess Jesus, essentially all of Europe, Britain, and well, I guess not all, but much of, and Eastern, all the way into Galatia, part of the Ottoman Empire or modern day Turkey, is Celtic. And that's essentially, if is in Galatia, could easily extend into its supposed connections and ties to Egypt with the Celts. Here we go, another one showing this Antarctica and Australia before they were discovered by the Russians in the early 1800s again. Oops. Orbis Christiani 1. Like, we got Tartary Asia, including India and Arabia and Persia and the Ottoman Empire, but not Egypt, not even the Sinai. Very fascinating. All the way through Vietnam down there. And
What does
not
it say?
Japan.
What does it say over Egypt?
Good question.
Can't read it at all.
Almost looks like Egypt. Aegyp. Possibly. I don't know. We'll have to find a better pixelation Guinea. Okay. And look at this. We got rivers through the Sahara, and it's essentially covered green throughout what is now the Sahara Desert and lakes. And this actually going to what would be flowing the opposite way of the Eye of the Sahara there, I believe. Or is this the Eye of the Sahara? Either way, fascinating. So once again, anything that... So it does show that whatever pre-cataclysm, they had not had world explorers to go down and check these areas yet, or go into the inners inside of Africa and see what's actually there, and that actually that is desert and no longer livable. But that's... and what is this down here, right? We have Brasilia already. America, me, Chile. Wow.
I don't even see. I don't understand what the point of this map would be.
Patagonia. The Christian world. OdySee, his map of the Christian world. OdySee, his map of Christian world, and where is there a date on this? Oh, in English, interesting. All right, we'll have to come back and look at that one further. What do we have here? This also looks like it has North America, South America, and what is this down here? Antarctica? Like, what are all these other lands? And then, of course, what do we have here? Is this where Hobbiton is? Is this Middle Earth? Does Middle Earth then have like Inner Earth below it or above it, or what goes on here? Just...
It's looking like a video game map.
I don't even know. Could be. This right here, I found out, is in China.
Is it an amusement park or is it supposedly historic?
Supposedly historic. And I'm gonna have to look into it more. I think I saw someone decently made. No, I don't want to make any claims and say any names, but someone on Instagram that showed it that it's worth looking into. Worth looking into. This old map. And are these pyramids up here? Yes, they probably are. And all through here. Did you have some Chinese pyramids that you wanted to share and go over?
Yeah, I have a list we can look at.
Definitely worth looking. Check it out on the other side of the world, what we can find. Why can you find pyramids everywhere? Tie it back to the solstice. There. Here's another one. In the meantime, kaboom. Which one is this? I don't know. Shitty pixelation, darn it. This one. This one's quite well known. And again, between there. Ooh, one moment.
We're shaking.
Sorry, just on the phone for a sec. Shim got, yep.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, so this is a pyramid in China apparently. Wiling, if you want to find it. I'll post this into the chat. As you can see, it's completely massive. They say these are tombs, but they'd never let anyone excavate anything. We have legends of people like the Queen Semiramis coming all throughout Asia and building structures like this. We also have legends of the Mongols building or burying their khans in mountains or hill structures like this. And then within Chinese mythology, of course, you have. They say that all of these are the tombs of Chinese emperors. Unfortunately, Google has censored a lot of these recently.
Yeah, and the communists there really love planting trees on them and censoring them like no other. And it's quite a shame. And what we have seen, there's the one queen that was like in perfect mummied condition. They found like in like a sea of mercury or something that had like the whole map of China like rebuilt. I don't know, it's something crazy. The story, and then all the terracotta warrior armies, and that's just the beginning. And who knows what really all is like. It's so immense and such epic proportions of previous civilization left buried and unexplained.
Well, yeah, that first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, who's apparently built. He's buried in that tomb with all those terracotta soldiers, but apparently his tomb has those rivers of mercury with like an entire replica of the world map. But
Yeah, that's right.
we're
And
still allowed
like
to explore it.
And the rivers were made of mercury, supposedly.
Yeah, I don't understand how they get away with keeping that stuff away from the public, or I don't know. It's just so suspicious and stupid.
It really is, and it needs to be brought to the light of day and appreciated and looked at further instead of letting grave robbers take it, loot it, and destroy it all.
So here's another mound, the Hugh Kubing tomb. As you can see, it's massive, man-made mound pyramid. Of course, you can't dig, so the best we get is a picture that looks like a mound.
Just giant mountains.
I'm just going through a list. I have 15 different pyramids here. See how many. 2 of them haven't popped up so far, so we'll see how many still exist on Google. So here we go, Maling Mausoleum. So these are just massive sites. Like this is ginormous, and you don't hear about this at all for some reason. And you can see they're planting trees on it too, in this photo here. Move to the next one. The next one isn't showing up.
Just planting trees. Nothing to see. And if you plant trees on it, well, then you definitely can't excavate it and see what's under it because, well, you just planted trees on it. That would be
The
a crime.
Hanping Mausoleum. I don't know. You see these same mound structures all over the planet. Which reminds me of the Herodium in Israel. Reminds me of the Bunny Mound that I showed on my channel too. It's just
Yeah, one kind of close by you, right?
yeah, because I mean these are just as impressive as the pyramids of Egypt, but you never hear about them at all. So why is that?
Because there's only the Great Giza pyramids. Don't worry about like the other 500 documented other pyramids in Egypt or even Nubian pyramids, like thousands of them, or the Chinese pyramids, thousands of them, or the Korean pyramids, or Japanese, or the American, or South American.
Yeah, a lot of these have been taken off, but kind of sucks. Maybe we just open up Google Earth instead. But yeah, the question is just who built all of these?
Right? Just a prior, like pre-cataclysm civilization is like where the evidence of whoever existed during this time of when these maps were relevant and there was life in the Sahara and there was much more land all over. They had to have been built then by undocumented people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on, I guess, what the purpose of them were.
Oh, exactly. And can't wait till the next time we get to go further into detail with Sam Zvonimich and what they've been measuring and documenting at the Bosnian pyramids. One of the rare cases in the world where they've actually been able to get ownership and conduct open and honest archaeological excavation and different science measurements, and where they've actually detected and started recording this energy beam that like correlates from one of the pyramids of what he had called the sun, and it turned out that this energy beam follows the sun that comes out of the top of the pyramid of the sun in Bosnia, and wonder and suspect that most likely lots of these pyramids and mounds have very similar phenomenon happening, or used to, at the very least.
Has that been reported at other sites or just in Bosnia? Have you heard of it anywhere else?
I've seen supposed images of them in a couple of the Mexican pyramids. I believe Chichen Itza, as well as Teotihuacan in the Mexico City complex of the gods, City of the Gods, they call it. We have Shem Jacobs and Tartarian Truth and BurnEye, the Science Guy, and Crypto Alchemist, and some homunculus with us. Okay. It's a holly jolly solstice. Merry Christmas, New Year. What is the R.I.P. Chuck? But let's keep the spirit of Chuck alive. Should we pull up a couple of Chuck's videos maybe to play quick of some of the excellent documentation he did during his life on his YouTube channel of the Chinese pyramids?
Yeah, sure, if you want to. I pulled up Google Earth.
Oh, you got some. Okay, some perfect. Let's look at this first, and then maybe we can go back and forth and find some of the ones that Chuck pointed out, because there was the one that looked like, well, clearly had evidence of like some sort of weird reactor, like crazy new building being built into one of those pyramids in China or something. I remember seeing, like, we should check that out. But before that, let's see everything Mr. Shem Jacobs has.
All that stuff in Mongolia. Let's check out the Great White Pyramid real quick.
And then let's go to Mongolia. Mongolia is very fascinating too.
Shout out Nance. Yeah, so let's just do a little experiment real quick. Why not? I don't think you can see the measurement, unfortunately, but I'll measure it and say it out loud.
Shout out S23 for watching 2 streams of me simultaneously, stating what the Bob Greenyer one, catching up on the TV, and this on live on the phone. And thank you, bless you, Calex. Merry Christmas. Thank you for the support.
So this was 241 yards. Let's see how. I just want to compare it to the Great Pyramid. It's Giza.
Oh man, Canada sucks right now. Well, it was great up until about an hour ago, right before the stream started. Well, it's been above freezing, which is very strange for like up until. Actually, it seems it's been like that the last few years, now that I truly think about it. But as a child, there would always be like waist high, well, head high as a child, but like as you grew up into adolescence, well, it stopped. But large snow starting around Halloween. Now it literally doesn't start until around solstice or Christmas that it's really gets cold, and it was above zero just a couple hours ago. Now there's like this ridiculous wind out, and it was straight out of the north, and it's dropped very cold. It's cold.
Yeah, we've only had one snow here yet so far. I'm sorry, guys. My computer is so slow. I'm trying to get this to do it. But yeah, those 2 pyramids, the Great Pyramid and the Great White Pyramid in China were about the same size as far as width.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the White Pyramid one is the complex of the three big ones from China that they've also shown with the um, uh, Orion constellation, the Belt of Orion astroarchaeological alignment.
Yeah, I think it was. Let's see if we can check out some of these spots in Uzbekistan.
And
So yeah, these are just mounds. These are basically burial mounds that are all over the world. Some of them are pyramids though. It's just there's so many that I don't remember.
well, and it's like there's sand dunes with pyramids underneath them a lot of the time if they're just quote unquote the mounds.
Well, I know that you have to think about it. A burial mound's not that complicated, so maybe all civilizations just come up with it, but it's still interesting to make the connection. So yeah, this is like a ziggurat type shape, I think, here. It's in the middle of nowhere. Got another buddy down here.
Like, how could anybody, like, even today, especially today, in so far from civilization and in straight desert, would like anybody build these things?
Well, it was likely civilization back then, but maybe they just over farmed it, or there was a weapon involved that caused it to turn out the way it is now.
For sure.
Because Uzbekistan was, yeah, I mean, it wasn't always as sparsely populated. It was way more prominent in history. I really wish this would load.
I believe the Aral Sea also used to exist within part of that area, if I am not mistaken.
I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, this is giving me the wheel of death. Come on. Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's all good. It's the way she goes.
Let me see if I can restart this real quick. If you want to bring something up, that's cool.
All right. So let's see what's left in the old maps. Oh, another one. Type Vis Orbis Terra Verum. Again. That Antarctica, Australia, one continent thing. And what I don't fully comprehend is if that was ice or land. It almost seems as if it was all land, but because it connects all of us, I don't know. I just don't know. Oh, what do we have here? Fascinating. All right, so this is what's underneath the pyramid, apparently. This is what's fascinating. because you have potentially, because who knows what they actually depict up north today to what's actually there. But we know that there's an island called Devon Island that is extremely large that NASA test rovers on, that we've discovered. Shout out ElkMan. There's Pyramid Bay or Cove in there, and then there was what looks like several pyramids on there and straight giant canal channeled waterways going into it and from it, which is like, could they just be claiming that Devon Island is one of these islands?
It would be interesting. I think there's something going on at the North Pole, but I mean, at OSU campus, they have the Admiral Byrd papers apparently, but you have to request one box at a time to view them. So you're apparently supposed to just know what you're looking for before you get there, because you can only have one box per day.
Really?
But they have like all of his journals and stuff apparently there.
Huh.
I thought about trying to get photos of them or video of them or something, but
We should try to do that as a project in 2024. That would be epic.
yeah, you just have to make an appointment there, and I don't know if you just I don't really know exactly how it works, but I do know you have to have an appointment and you can only request one box.
Huh. Like, and what is this guy?
Looks like Lago de Conibus.
De Conibus. That's what I thought. Going out.
No, not LSU, OSU, Ohio State University in Columbus, Ohio.
What is this with these canals? There's just way too much detail and like consistency in these to not have some merit, and at least in the pre-cataclysm geology of the area. And is it why Einstein made a point to state that he believed in cataclysm, like the catastrophism model, before he died, over, I guess, evolution, or I guess it's combination of the both, but it's, I don't know, there's just so much evidence towards it.
I mean, it does. If you consider these maps and why they're so different, you could say it's evidence that there is a more frequent cataclysm that takes place. Because if you think about just that land bridge from Siberia to North America, Beringia is what it used to be called. You have tons of old maps that show them being connected, even though they seem very inaccurate when you look at them. But
yeah, it's from,
why would they create? I mean, why would they create those? People are getting paid tons of money to do that.
like,
the entire
people's
point.
lives, sailors' lives, tradesmen's lives are on the line, sort of
Exactly.
thing.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, so why would they create this landmass describing cities that match up with books that describe the same cities in the same places that seemingly disappear later on in time? I don't know.
It's like, how many coincidences do we need in a row before it just... And what the fuck was Tartary? How about we cover that for a minute? Shem, Tartarian truth. We don't have to get into the topic of your split personality, but what is the truth of Tartaria from the opinion of Shem Jacobs' research?
I'm torn between a couple things on it, but I think overall there was, for some reason, a civilization that existed that was basically pretty similar to what we have going on today with the United Nations and all that stuff and the IMF. I think there's a civilization just like that in history, which either was defeated at some point in history or still remains in power and has basically created some sort of situation to make it seem like they've lost power. But if you just want to go off of maybe the idea that they've been defeated, people like Fomenko claim that basically after Batu Khan conquered, basically the Tartarian Empire, the most recent iteration, was founded by Genghis Khan when he conquered Russia and a lot of the world, and then afterwards Batu Khan conquered Europe. Then Batu Khan founded the Vatican, and after that there was a split between the religious and the royal family, which led to the downfall of the Tartarian Empire, according to Fomenko. And that's, according to him, that's covered up in mainstream history by things like the Reformation movement. So, I mean, there's multiple ways you can take it from that point, but I don't know. We could do you want to focus on a certain section of the empire or anything else? Any questions about any of that stuff so far?
Could be an interesting snapshot of specifically the decline or fall of that. Here, looks like some old Soviet map, and we have the Soviet Union a lot smaller, and then what appears, whatever is still controlling China also controls what appears to be Japan and the Kuril Islands all the way up to half of the Russian peninsula there, as well as the entire coast up in, right? The Soviets have just a chunk of Alaska, but still have the inner half of the Arctic Ocean, but
they had a lot of America until like the mid 1800s, and
exactly. But that, look, it's two different groups here. There's whatever was in China or Tartar or whatever the heck was remaining, and the Soviet, Russian or European, Khazarian Bolshevik takeover. But over here, though, it seems like that the large portion going down north was actually all what existed prior to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's evidence in history of there being some sort of trade between what is known as Tartaria and North America. But that just depends on how you want to look at it, what it means, because you could just come up with so many different ideas. Like if we're considering that there are frequent cataclysms and stuff like that, that just opens up an entire different paradigm of what could be taking place here. Tartaria could just be the same group of people who have been in control since the beginning, and they reset civilization over and over again. And basically we're like cattle to them. And maybe they even created us to a certain extent, which explains a lot of the Mind Unveiled videos recently with creation of humans. Or if you read, the reason that I even entertain that idea is because when you read Greek mythology or any type of religious text, it talks about God creating man and then resetting and then basically creating man again, right? Like there's these cycles of different types of humans that they experiment with. So that's why I even entertain that idea. But the optimistic way to look at Tartaria, the way that I would like to see it, is that it was basically like a multi-ethnic federation that existed on a worldwide level, and there was some sort of split within the family that caused them to I guess, change society for the worse, or there was a completely different usurper who came to power, and basically some of it existed until at least World War I or World War II in mainstream history.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard to explain it briefly, though. I apologize.
Right. Deserves several episodes all on its own. And here we have another one that takes point at showing and see South America looked a lot different, as bulkier back then. And again, just this little canal between it and Antarctica that also has Terra Australis on the other half. But looky up here. Why do they all take such point in depicting these 4 islands and inner mountain, I guess, and river?
Mike does. The Dark Ages is basically a myth. It's propaganda for some reason.
Or is it when society went dark because there was some cataclysm resets potentially, right? And here we got another Islamic map. Arabic. Which
That's
also.
where. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just stating this. Here's an Arabic ancient map also showing the exact same pre-cataclysm features, as well as, look at this, the 4 barrier islands with little waterways in between them. And what were you about to say? You remember?
Oh yeah, the Dark Ages, like they call it dark because they say that there was no progress in society or anything like that, but the Gothic tribes that were in control at that time were just as advanced as any other civilization. And in mainstream history, they even talk about this with the mausoleums, the churches that were built, like in Ravenna, for example, in Italy. They have entire like cathedrals that have all this intricate painting inside, which for some reason the characters in the painting have been removed to censor out who they actually were. And this is taking place during the Dark Ages. It was.
Oh, I see your point. Oh my gosh, I forgot to send Dan the link this entire time. I am such a stoner. Keep on going. Might still have Solar Marshall join us.
But yeah, the Goths are basically just another branch of the Tartars. At the end of the day, they're likely either the Cossacks or some other Eurasian steppe people who migrated into Europe, according to people like Fomenko. After Rome fell by Byzantine, held Europe for 80 years. When Rome fell, the Dark Ages began. But what you're missing with that is that the Senate continued to function. Nothing changed in Rome after when that happened. Nothing was destroyed. Theodoric literally just came into power, and the Roman Senate continued to function as if nothing happened. So the only reason people think it's bad is because propaganda that exists for some reason. So why is that propaganda exist? That's
they just turned into the there's the Eastern Roman Empire and Western Roman Empire split, and there seems to be an ongoing war and split in that same area to this day. But besides getting into politics and the deterioration of world events, instead, the fact that, like you pointed out, and I'm going to also reference Praveen Mohan's work throughout Southeast Asia and all of the faces being carved off the statues there, and potentially are like these elongated skull folk or other demigod or whatever the heck it was, parasitic, what you speak of, is it still there, and do they control things? feel free to speak further on that.
Do the elongated skull people? I don't know.
Or whoever that's the faces, whoever those faces belong to that have been wiped out of history.
I think it's likely that no, they're not. The people who have been removed are not in control anymore. And the reason they've been removed is just because they don't want history to be as accurate. Like there's weird examples all around Europe. For example, like at the Cologne Cathedral, there's the sarcophagus, which has been drastically edited for some reason, but it's edited in such weird ways to where, like, for example, King Solomon is on the sarcophagus and his head has been removed and placed on like a female body. Just weird stuff like that. So I'm not sure exactly why they're doing it, but it's like they don't want people to know who's actually a part of history. I don't know. It's a little bit above my head. I'm still looking into it.
Right, but it's that it deserves looking into, and that clearly things have been manipulated. Here again, we see they made the point. They didn't do all of what's here, but they made the point of showing that, oh, there was like just this little canal between the tip of South America and whatever this Antarctic Terra Australis thing was. And what do you make of the island of California back then?
I think it ties into the whole Beringia thing we were talking about earlier. Maybe after Beringia disappeared and all this stuff, whatever caused California to no longer be an island, but it's hard to tell. Have you ever heard of that Chan Thomas book, The Story of Adam and Eve?
Yeah, the CIA classified it, right?
Yeah, well, the cataclysm he describes in that book is pretty frequent, so it could have something to do with that. But at the same time,
how frequent are we talking? What are the actual odds of Archaic's Doomsday cult being real?
the 138 thing, I don't think it really makes too much sense, because unless they did like a hell of a good job after World War I and World War II, which I guess is entirely possible, but we do have interviews with veterans from those time periods that say that they were alive. So it's hard to like discount those, I guess, because if you think about,
He's saying that there's nobody alive before then? Like that, that's one of his claims, essentially. Like,
so 138 years before 2040 would be 1902, right? So
yeah,
the last Phoenix event would have been 1902. So in his theory, that could have happened just in specific parts of the world. So yeah, there could have been pockets of civilization that survived it or whatever. But if we think about just, I guess, civilizations, if there was a reset in 1902, I just don't know how there wouldn't be people alive who would at least remember something to do with that.
like
right?
I talked to my grandfather like as a child and like growing up and always asking him like from stories of when he was a kid, which definitely was from way before then, and back before they had immigrated to North America, I believe. Yeah, when he was a kid, yeah. It would have definitely before that time.
So
Just makes no sense.
He does have a lot of knowledge of chronology and stuff like that, but I mean, obviously everyone has their outlandish theories. We've already put some out here tonight ourselves, so.
Yeah, and that's just speculation though. Like that's
exactly.
I ain't building a full channel or novel or G.I. Joe movie on it. I was gonna load some what the heck was I gonna load? Some Chuck video of the Chinese pyramids. But first, shout out to Jim Dillinger and this video he did just moved me so much about the Chicago 1871 fire that I've been meaning to cover it for a while. And well, with your own research into Chicago in general and the resets and whatnot, I figure if you haven't seen this, Shem, now's the perfect time. I'll play this
To do it.
and get your live reaction for it. And then we'll go on to Chuck. All right, so let's see here. Share. And this time I remembered to share it on Twitter. So the annoying ads. Can you hear it, Shem?
I can't see it though.
All right.
Did you? Now, today, we're going to talk about Chicago.
Good now.
1871. Yeah. Look at that city. That city was well intact. Look at those bridges. Look at those buildings. Look at the whole place. And you all know what happened on this date, October 8th to the 10th, 1871. The whole place got destroyed in fire. And 1871, that happened at the time when America became a corporation crown colony. Now, we're going to get stuck into here some of the evidence that it's going to get a little bit freaky. So, that's not why we call it the Windy City, but I can tell you it was pretty windy that night. Look at that. Look at that. It is like a artificial wind almost, if you want to call it that. Hell of a lot of damage, all damage. I don't know whether this is a mixture of a photograph and a drawing.
No, these are AI. These have to be AI.
Scarpering down through the streets. It doesn't look right.
Yeah, it's AI. This is an AI photo.
Damage. This is O'Leary's car kicked over a lantern and burnt the whole fucking city to the ground. I mean, it's a joke. Look at what you're looking at. It's the same damage as the San Francisco earthquake, 1906. It's the same fucking damage as Hiroshima. It's the same damage as Dresden during the war. It's the same damage you see in the old black and white photographs of St. Louis, Missouri in the 1860s in the Civil War. Same damage, same tech, same weaponry. Paradise Lahaina. Walls sliced to pieces. And even this here wall here on the left hasn't got any scorch damage on it. The timber here is all laying on the ground, fell out, didn't burn. All this timber here didn't burn. Weird shit. Look at these chimney stacks. Play a little bit of this video. Now look at that beautiful church burned to the ground. There's another church burnt not to the ground. And there's another church right there. And as we pan around, we probably see some more. So I'm asking myself, I mean, what have you got? Episcopalians next to Hooges, next to Jayhawkers? 3 churches right next to one another. If you look at those old black and white photos of San Francisco, of the panoramic view from 1877, they've got church piled against church, next to another church. I mean, there must have been fucking 65 there behind. I mean, and they're still million tons of bombs. Oh, look, 007s on like trees and gateposts. Now,
this right here.
Let's get to the tricky bit, okay? The Great Fire of Chicago, October the 8th, 1871. Now, as far as I know, this is a page from a 1901 book, supposedly, allegedly, so they say, it came from a Chicago newspaper picture a couple of days after the event. So, where do you go from here? Let me read out what this says. You probably can't see it here on the small screen. If you've got a big screen, you're going to be able to see it, okay? The Great Fire commenced on Sunday evening, October the 8th, and continued until Tuesday, October the 10th, consuming the business portion of the city's public buildings, hotels, interstellar trading depots, newspaper offices, railroad depots, and extending over an area of 5 square miles. The fire began when immigrant aliens, feeling cheated in a business transaction, took to the skies in their floating saucer crafts and employed their destructo ray interstellar destruct, destructive ray. Interstellar trading was suspended in Chicago soon after the fire. Here's the fucking disturbing thing. A group of immigrant aliens feeling cheated in a business transaction. Whatever was going on, if there's any factuality to this whatsoever, right? Whatever was going on, they had a deal with the people in the city. Because, well, look, man, this tech has been around for as long as the Earth has been around.
And I'm gonna just pause it there. Any shout out Dim Gillinger channel, Jim. If anyone wants to go, well, please do go subscribe to Jim, and he just goes into a little bit of curse words, ranting of the current politicians running Chicago. So we don't really want to. Don't need to get flagged, but yeah, the point being, potentially this, and just even the fact that, hey, if say, devil's advocate, this is just like some tabloids, like fake story of the day that ran in the newspaper, like the tabloid newspaper or whatever. Regardless, it's the fact that this is 1871. And it's flying saucers with death rays that they're already depicting, like it's already within human consciousness, and that there's obviously reports of them happening elsewhere in the world for them to fabricate it or document it in this instance.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've never heard of that before, but
Neither
I do know that one reason they could be thinking that is a possibility is because when the Great Fire of Chicago happened across the lake, another city in Michigan was burning as well at the same time, and within Chicago itself, the fire was jumping over rivers apparently, and like just spreading in crazy ways, and there was like these fire tornadoes. So it would make sense why someone who witnessed that might think something like that, if anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because what are the odds of a city in Michigan being on fire at the same exact time?
Well, unless, looks like these aliens could have also done that, right? He does actually cover that. Jim does go deeper into covering that aspect of like, well, maybe they're that pissed they burnt down 3 cities that night. But
well, you have to think about what was going on at that time period too. That's 1871. This is when the District of Columbia in the United States was founded. This is basically when the United States became what it is today, for the most part. Right before that, we had the Civil War taking place, 1865. So there's a lot of turmoil going on during this time period. I've been researching into it, and what I've been looking for are stuff called workers' revolts or strikes, because that's usually when these types of events happen, when there's like arson or they have the military come in to suppress these worker strikes. So identifying all these different worker strikes in these areas we might be able to figure out more of what was happening, because those could be disguising military battles between what we were talking about earlier, the remainders of the Tartars, or the people who were part of this former potential empire, and then the new government, which was formed in like 1871, right?
Very true. What's Chuck's channel name again?
CFF 7865.
CF. What? Sorry, CF.
C apps 7865.
CApps. Right, CApps. Oops. One more time.
CF apps
CF
7865.
CF apps 685.
Yeah, if it doesn't work this time, you can just go to my channel. It's like the number. It's like the first thing on the subscriptions thing.
My dyslexic self finally managed to get it through the keyboard, and here we go. So much good work. R.I.P. Chuck. May your soul be resting or exploring all of these places.
One last thing about the fire thing, though, is that we were looking at the remains of the city, and it looked like it had been completely destroyed. It was unbelievably destroyed. There was a gun at the 1893 World Fair called the Fair Krupp gun, I believe was what it was called. But basically, they were saying that it had the capability of destroying buildings in the same way as what they were showing in those pictures.
Really?
It was like this massive cannon that could. They tested it out once, and it like skipped across the water or something and messed up a bunch of stuff. They allegedly only ever tested it, but I'm just saying it.
There was potential of that technology, yeah.
It could shoot across the lake too, apparently.
Right, like that's yeah, definitely not cannon. I mean, I guess they'd have artillery that could go that far today or further, but that's just crazy. Much more than they admit or document. All right, let's see. There's just so much good stuff that Chuck did. And where is the Chinese pyramids? Further down.
I might have a link to it, actually.
Ooh, maybe let's check this one out first. It said Toltec, and shout out to Mike at ancient or aliencarvings.com and the Mexican carvings he has from Tolma and New Mexico that looks like Toltec stuff, but then there's one that he has that actually looks specifically like the Chinese ones here. That we will quickly check this out, and then the pyramid to finish it off, I guess.
Everybody, video here for you today. Ancient History News. This is, I believe, the 30th edition of this series. I started this over a year ago. Look at 5 ancient history news stories. But first of all, I want to say congratulations to Dendel and her band. They won the Battle of the Bands in Henderson on Saturday night, won first prize. Congrats to her. And for new subs, Dendel has been singing on my channel since the fall of 2016, I believe. So big congrats to her.
Shout out Dendel. Maybe
Let's
we
go
should
down to
interview
Cairo
her
today
about
for our first story.
her
Big
time
event's going to happen here.
Dendel Hoyak.
Yes. They're going to have a big procession where former rulers of Egypt are going to be paraded down the streets to a new home. Let's just go to a story here. Here is a recent article, Glimpse of Ancient Egypt's Famed Rulers, to feature soon at Museum of Egyptian civilization. It says Royal Mummies Gallery at New Museum is set to receive 22 of Egypt's most famous ancient kings. Egypt is gearing for the massive transfer of several mummies for ancient Egyptian kings to their new home in the Cairo district of Fustat on April 3. On that day, 22 royal mummies will be transferred in a huge parade from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo's Tahrir Square to their new permanent display in Fustat's National Museum of Egyptian Civilization. I believe this is the tomb of Amenhotep II, discovered in the late 1800s, but some of these rulers come from tomb 320, found in the Valley of the Kings. Originally, this was thought to be the tomb of a high priest, but many rulers were found in here. Once they got down to the bottom, they found rulers such as Tutmosis I, II, III, Seti, Ramses I, and II, all in one tomb. Here's the new National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, where the rulers are going to end up after their parade route. Let's move on to the next story. Next story, let's go down to China. Place I have a real problem pronouncing names. This is the Sichuan province right down here. Here's a fairly recent story from the South China Morning Post. Treasures of mystery civilization could rewrite history of China. The sophisticated artifacts unearthed in Sichuan point to the existence of an advanced culture that challenges a traditional narrative. The existence of this unknown civilization outside the traditional heartland suggests Chinese culture may have its roots in a fusion of different peoples, and they have a video attached here. And I will leave this link below if you want to check it out. But archaeologists in China making some pretty incredible discoveries here. And I will leave this link along with maybe one or two others on this story below. But here are some of the things they have uncovered in China. Very interesting. I have made maybe 24 videos on China total. This was just a very interesting story. Finds that were made here. Different artifacts, and especially this one here.
Well, it looks
archaeologists
like a giant
unearthing this remnant of a golden mask.
Fucking
That is
beans,
very
bro.
cool, probably priceless. It says this gold mask may have been worn by a priest. That is speculation, but that is a very cool find. Here is one thing
Everything's a priest or
can
two.
do. Bronze item of some sort with intricate designs and looks like little glyphs on it. That's a pretty cool find there.
It's looking as
Just reading a little of the article, it says the Zongyuan was long believed to be the center of the world with the most advanced civilization, and people living outside were regarded as barbarians. But with the new discoveries at Zhangzhingdu suggests the story of Chinese civilization may be more complex than previously thought. And isn't that the way it is with many sites around the world? Here's another article that was sent to me. 3,000-year-old gold mask of lost civilization discovered by archaeologists in southwest China. Here's a look at that bronze item that was unearthed at the site from the previous article. Here is gold decoration of some sort found at the site. Whenever you have gold items, that's always cool. Here is an item. It says an archaeologist pictured working at one of the pits earlier this month, unearthing something there. Going down here, here is an item. Very cool. Mask. Talked a lot about masks on my channel. It says a bronze head, a mask uncovered from Zhangzhou in 1986 when the first sacrificial pits were found at the site. That is ancient China for you. Let's move on. Here's a story I'm just going to throw in real quick. This $35 bowl sold at a Connecticut yard sale is worth $500,000. The bowl turned out to be a rare 15th century Chinese artifact. It says a yard sale purchase turned out to be a rare find from China's Yongle period during the Ming Dynasty. A small porcelain bowl bought for $35 at a yard sale in Connecticut turned out to be a rare 15th century Chinese artifact estimated to be worth $300,000 to $500,000. I guess Sotheby's auctioned it off about 10 days ago. But that's a throw-in story. Pretty interesting. Next story, let's go over to ancient America. Let's go down to the Toltec Mounds. I talked about this place probably about 2, 3, 4 months ago. I'm just not really sure. But here's the site today. Some pretty impressive mounds still in this place. A nice archaeological park. I know some of my viewers have been here. Let's just go over to a story that just came out recently. Here's a story coming from last week from the Arkansas Times. And once again, I will leave all these links I used below. Wow. Ancient history, a correction proposed in legislation. But it says, filed this week, a motion to rename the Toltec Mounds Archaeological Park. There's a sign at Toltec Mounds Archaeological Park. Here is a look from inside the park. And here is an article, Toltec Mounds Astrological Alignment Celebrated. I believe I used this article in my video from last winter on the Toltec Mounds, but let's go over and read what they're trying to change here.
Toltec Mounds.
Now here is the actual bill last winter on the...
This right here is like parallel terracing to what I found on the Alberta Medicine Hat Badland Guardian Hills, and terraforming just identical terraces that are this place, which is where did he say, Arkansas?
Yeah, it's in Arkansas. I wish that they would get some photos of closer up so we can see how much space is in between
the
them.
Toltec Mounds, but let's go over and read what they're trying to change here. Now here is the actual bill, House Bill number 1823, to rename the Toltec Mounds Archaeological State Park. And says the Toltec Mounds site is an archaeological site in Arkansas that protects an 18-mile complex with the tallest surviving prehistoric mounds in Arkansas. It was declared an historical landmark in 1978. Construction of the Toltec Mound site in Arkansas is attributed to the Toltec civilization of Mexico. It says archaeologists from the Smithsonian Institution's Bureau of Ethnology in 1883 proved that the indigenous people of the region built these mounds. And it says down here at the bottom, the Toltec Mounds Archaeological State Park shall be renamed Chief Hecaton Archaeological State Park, and the name shall be changed only by an act of the General Assembly. So I will leave this below if you want to check out the wording of this article, but they want to change it because they don't think this has anything to do with the Toltecs of Mexico. Next story, let's go down to Russia. I found this very interesting. I talked about this maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I don't think I've talked about it since, but I saw a few people tweet about this. This is called Shigir, right down here. A very interesting find was made down here in 1890, and it just seems like many other things, this too is getting pushed further back in history. Let's just go to an article. This is Science Alert. This is called the Shigir Idol. The world's oldest known wooden statue is over 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. That is based on when you think Stonehenge is built. But it says the further back you go in time, the sparser the archaeological record grows. Many materials used by humans, wood, leather, fabric, simply don't last and are swallowed by the earth under the implacable march of time. The Shigir Idol, in that context, is a marvel. Just reading a little here, it says in 10 pieces, the idol was first discovered in 1890 and was regarded as a curiosity, a totem pole-like carving from an earlier age. It says radiocarbon dating revealed in the 1990s that the Shigir idol was much older than we had guessed, placing it around 9,750 years old. Then in 2018, another bombshell. A team of scientists conducted new analysis using a sample extracted from the artifact's more pristine core and found that it was closer to 11,600 years old, placing it right at the end of the Younger Dryas boundary. But it says here a team in Russia has now reanalyzed multiple carbon dating results. Their finding is that some of the statue is even older still. The wood used in the sculpture appears to be around 12,250 years old. Since the Shigir idol was made from the trunk of a larch tree with 159 growth rings, this suggests that the statue itself was carved around 12,100 years ago, around 500 years earlier than the 2018 analysis showed. This suggests that the sculpture was carved at the end of the last ice age and the beginning of the Holocene. And here are some looks at this carving. What exactly do these designs represent? That's very interesting to think about. What were these people depicting? Coming from the Younger Dryas period, they must have seen some pretty incredible things. It says the idol was carved during an era of great climate change when the early forests were spreading across a warmer late glacial to post-glacial Eurasia.
See, they tell us that the forests were spreading at that time, yet all the maps that we see from before this time have rivers and forests everywhere, and now they're deserts and desolate.
The carbon, I don't know, the carbon dating thing too.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of suspicious.
There truly is. Like, it's
The landscape
who knows? Like,
There were tests done. I mean, there's tests done that for some reason aren't very publicized. But for example, they had like these American mollusks that they took samples of for carbon dating, and they were still alive, but they said that they're 1,200 years old. Or
so
like
they're
they
just
had.
1,200-year-old mollusks.
Well, I guess it's supposed to be from like how long they've been dead.
I see what you're saying.
So then, like, I guess that, yeah, I mean, and then they did it with like a flower, and it said the flower had been dead for like 360 years, and then they did it with like a eucalyptus, which said that
change.
the
Sorry.
it said that it said that the eucalyptus shouldn't even exist for 600 more years from the time it was tested, so it was 600 years early. Then they had this like seashell they tested in Florida, which said it shouldn't even exist for another 1,080 years from the time it was tested.
That makes no sense at all, and I'm now gonna have to look into this. And they gave a papaya COVID or something. I remember them testing papaya. Papaya had COVID. I remember that. So anything's possible, right?
The most ridiculous test is the one where they shot these seals. They just like killed them immediately and tested them.
Poor seals.
And like, yeah, it was.
Guess it's better than clubbing.
But they were, as soon as they killed them, they were dated to be 1,300 years old, and then they mummified some of them for 30 years. And when they tested them, they said they were 4,600 years old.
Really?
So that's 4,570 years off. So you have to think about radiocarbon dating has the potential of being at least 4,570 years off based on these tests.
So weird. So then it's like maybe there was just a much more recent reset and cataclysm.
I don't know. It's hard to tell exactly what it means. Like, why would the carbon dating be so off? And why would they use it to prove things if it is?
Yeah. Your guess is good as mine, and maybe the Earth is only 2,000 years old after all. I don't know. Hey, that's the evidence you're suggesting there, Shem. I don't know.
Is it? That's crazy.
Well, I don't know. I have no idea. All right. Shall we move on to the White Pyramid of China and our second video from Chuck of the night. Oh my God, the wind is howling and it's so cold. And for F's sakes, I got a flat tire last night and I have to be up super early in the morning to go to freaking pick apart. And it was warm today and now it's super cold. And oh God. Merry Christmas to me. At my mom's birthday dinner, nonetheless. Get outside. My tire is flat. Need a new rim, need a new tire. Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas. That was my solstice. It was a dark, dark winter solstice this year, and now it's punishing me with northern, ridiculous cold winds. All right, I'm gonna stop ranting. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. Let's watch Chuck and the White Pyramids of China.
Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and this is by request. Now I made a video on the China pyramids, and I made about 3 or 4 total before that, but I went over a few things and how these pyramids are laid out. But I will leave a bunch of links below, but I have some really good questions, and I'm going to go over those. But I am working on a few videos, and this will really be a good segue into my next history video. Also, for new subs, I also upload some video I made a couple months ago, and this gives you a good idea of how to find the pyramids in China on Google Earth, and I will leave this link below. But I got some good questions after this video, especially
how I related how the pyramids here in China are laid out along the river, kind of like the pyramids in Egypt are laid out along the Nile. So I thought I would look into this a little deeper. And here is a good website, and I will leave the link below. But the history in China is kind of vague, not a lot of access, and the things that we are learning are pretty recent discoveries. But especially on Google Earth, there's some videos on YouTube that show these pyramids. And I've made probably about 4 or 5 and found maybe over 5, 6 dozen pyramids total. Now, there was some work done on these in the 1960s, and also at that time, there was a gentleman's diary discovered who was here in the very early 1900s. I'll just read a little. But this gentleman's name was Schroeder, and in 1912 he writes, I captured the spirit of this magnificent spectacle. We drove around in search of the pyramid entrance, but we did not find anything. When Schroeder asked Bodikan, the local, about the age of the pyramids, he says it's more than 5,000 years. When asked why he believes so, Bodikan said, in our oldest books, written 5,000 years ago, these are referred to as the ancient pyramids. They were built in the times of the ancient emperors who said they originated from the sons of heaven that had descended to earth on their fiery dragons. Here is a map of some of these pyramid structures that are along the river here. It says, stretching from east to west for 50 kilometers, the valley resembles the Milky Way. Here you see how things are growing today, and they kind of tried to just cover these things up, but there is actually, it seems, causeways off the front of these that are covered up by time. And here are some of the clusters of pyramids. I don't know if there's really been good work done here on what these actually are representing, if they are representing anything as far as stars. Here's a look at some of the other ones. Here you see from ground level how big some of these structures are.
They're massive.
Now, the people maybe 2,000, 3,000 years ago, did they repurpose some of these?
Right? Like, look at the size of just like the front arch, and like that is like a 4 or 5 story just doorway in the middle of nowhere. And then look at the size of it. The second and the third one's getting closer, and then this giant mountain behind it.
It's unbelievable. And just to think that years from now, people might not even know that these exist at all because they're already working on covering it up. And then they will think that we're just making this up, or they're legends or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
And of course, the Terracotta Army. I featured those in a video from, I think, 2017. But I don't know.
And I was muted.
Seems to be the case in a lot of different areas of the world.
Yeah,
What about the origin of these structures?
First emperor, Qin Shi Huang, he's buried underneath one of these. So his tomb is built into a mountain, just like these mountains we're looking at now.
So was he the first or was he the last?
He's the first like documented one according to mainstream history, but Chinese history goes back much further than that.
Yeah. Clearly, well, yeah, they both stated it, as well as clearly we're looking at it.
Well, according to the ancient Chinese legends that seem to be preserved and written about, it says construction of the pyramids took place during the reign of the emperors who originated from the sons of heaven, those who descended to earth on their fiery metal dragons.
Oh, wow. So even the Chinese legends state that it was alien demigods that came, and it was their descendants, the ones that mated with man or whatnot, or what was mated with Sasquatch and Neanderthal and made us, or
yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways you could think about it, because it could just be a more advanced type of human who just arrives and basically, teaches them everything and interbreeds with the civilization there. Same type of thing.
It could be an alien. It could be from the sun, the sky. Well, and the sun.
Yeah, I mean, they could be describing various things with those allegories, but yeah, I mean, all of it's possible. We went there.
And you can take
Sorry. Finish your thought, or should
No,
I
that was it.
Whatever you want from that. But who are the sons of heaven and how many are there? Well, the legendary Hung Dai is the main guy. Maybe he is the Thoth of this group, but he has assistants. How many total are there? Well, there are 7. But the legend kind of echoes other places, especially Egypt. But I'll talk about that in a second. But it talks about the sons of heaven being wise beings that appeared in the celestial empire long before the first states emerged in the Huanghe Basin. Huang Dai and his team of 5 male companions and 1 female companion descended from heaven to earth in a chariot. They were the 7 sons of heaven. So you can take into that interpretation, whatever you want. But the legend of 7 beings brought civilization long before recorded history started in China. And that is exactly like Egypt. The 7 sages roamed the Nile Valley and set up where the primordial mounds were to become the temples in Egypt. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow in a special video that's coming up. When it says they came down from heaven, I think it means they brought the plans of heaven down to earth. Here are some more pyramids in China. But when they talk about bringing the plans of heaven down to earth, that simply means to me, as above, so below. And as above, so below is not only in the Hermetic text, that also comes from the Vedic text. But not only the 7 sages who brought civilization to the Nile Valley and to the place we call Egypt today, but also the 7 rays of light, the 7 seers, brought civilization to the Indus Valley in the India region. And this comes from a lecture from the Penn Museum, Mesopotamian Scholarship, the 7 sages. Who are these people? These are the 7 Anunnaki who brought civilization to Mesopotamia long before recorded history. They are the 7 brilliant Akalis, the Paradu fish of the sea, who ensure the correct functioning of the plans of heaven and earth. This is the same story from all these different civilizations, and China is included. Here's one of the fish.
Yeah, so essentially that's kind of what I was pointing at, is they have the same origin story as the Anunnaki Nephilim of Sumer, Babylon, and Egypt, essentially. I guess Egypt's a little different, but
I think it ties into the potentially the reset myth or something to do with that, because what they're describing I think ties into Dionysus or some. It's like it seems to be describing some sort of astronomical layout of the stars to where the sun or some sort of planet is in a certain position to where that's when this event seems to happen.
yeah.
And some people, and the reason it's described as them bringing civilization down to earth is because some people see this as like basically like the reset, the opportunity to like
need to set up somehow, maybe through Vegas, the Graham Hancock versus Archaics odds and wagering. Who's right? Right? Is it encoded in the stars archaeology of the precession of the zodiacs, or does Archaics realm of there's no evidence of the zodiacs ever existing, except if you do your own research or look into any megalithic site in the world, it's pretty much encoded in every single one. But besides that, he has to claim that, and that it's 138-year cycle, not the precession of the equinoxes. That's why he has to attack Graham Hancock.
Mike says Dionysus was a Thracian. Multiple cultures claim Dionysus. The Egyptians claim him. The Indians claim him. So that's why it's like this weird thing where he's the one that brings civilization to all these people, but also seems to represent a certain astronomical event.
Damn.
So is that describing, once this event happens, is that describing just the opportunity for them to reset themselves, and that's why they see it as bringing civilization? Who knows? Maybe there really is people that come down from some sort of ship or something during that time period. Maybe that's what it's describing. It's impossible to tell.
Yeah. Fish people and Thoth. Bird people. Oh my.
It's without being able to like read the original translations ourselves, we're just relying on a distorted version of it anyways, because people are just translating it into English, and for some reason whenever people translate something they want to add extra stuff into it to make themselves seem more important or something. I mean, and you can see it happening on stuff like Al Jazeera or these news companies, for example. When you see them interview like an Arabic person, the person will be saying something completely different than what they're typing in
Yes.
English on the screen, because the person will say like Alhamdulillah or like, you know, Bismillah or some of the stuff that means like God is the greatest or in the name of God, but they don't put that in the English text. They just put some other translation that doesn't say that.
Doesn't give the full prayer whatsoever, yet alone.
Not even a prayer, just like
saying.
I'm saying, like
Yeah, just
okay, so the guy will be getting interviewed, and the person will say, "What did you do
reads out
today?"
the last
Or "What do you want to
phrase.
do?"
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
The interviewer will say, "What do you want to do today?" And the guy will say, "God willing, I want to go to dinner." But just in English, it will just say, "I want to go to dinner." But in Arabic, he's saying, "God willing, I want to go to dinner." So they're intentionally just taking out the first part, even
Taking
though
out
that's what.
God from the conversation.
But you don't even have to like think. I'm just using that as an example. It has nothing to do with God. I'm just saying like.
Well, in that example, it
That's
does.
what happens with translations, is that they just
Edit out keywords, parts, and phrases, and it's. I suspect that one of the reasons of, for instance, like you said, them often not putting the God willing part in between the Arabic or Eastern Eastern way of speaking and then the Western view is that they're literally taking the spirituality aspect of showing how much more Eastern culture uses it and is connected to it to this day, and that completely out of the Western psyche sort of thing. Just censorship by omission. But that's a whole philosophical rabbit hole of another day. Any last words, or I guess I should let play the last 2 minutes of this, and then it is 1:33. That's not too bad, but I need to get to bed. It's 3:30. You are 3:33 right now, or 3:3.
Oh yeah, it's pretty late.
Indeed. And we're getting to the 2-hour mark. So, before I play this, any other things you would like to cover before we end tonight?
No, not really. Just another example is that it doesn't make sense how a translation would be able to rhyme in English as well as being apparently rhyming in the language that it came from too. It's just really stupid. Think about poetry or like anything like that. Why would you be able to take a poem written in Arabic, for example, and then rhyme it in English as well? It just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Oh, exactly. Like, so that the reason being so often why jokes and songs lose so much meaning between in translation between cultures.
Yeah, so think about things like the King James Bible or all this other stuff. Just that's what I'm saying, is like all these things that the original source material is in a different language. Apparently they translated to English perfectly fine, and it rhymes and it has all these poetic values in it, but it matches up perfectly. But we don't have access to the one that doesn't rhyme or doesn't do this stuff, which is the more accurate version, because they just want to feel more important by making stuff up. But yeah, probably what I'm saying probably doesn't even make much sense. I apologize.
It does. It's just we've been just given a inaccurate depiction and translation of our past and our history in every which manner we look and find, making it all the easier for something else or someone else to be manipulating it all. And who really knows what is the truth? Hopefully we get full disclosure in 2024. Raid the Vatican Library. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, raid every private collection. But yeah, I appreciate you.
Indeed, you as well, Brother Shem. Hope you had a happy solstice. If you're able to see the sun and take pictures of mounds around you over the next couple days, it's the perfect time, with it being that time of year and where the sun and moon are positioned. And hopefully we see you again and can arrange something with ElkMan before the new year. And happy new year to everybody that sees this before then and after then. And last words?
Yeah, appreciate you. Shout out to the chat. Everyone have a Merry Christmas.
Appreciate you too, brother. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and good night.
You crazy mother. Yeah.
It's just BurnEye.
Hey, Bernie, just like last week, huh?